After years of controversies on whether the military courts can try civilians or not, the Supreme Court has today made a landmark decision on the matter. The Supreme Court ruled that it is unconstitutional to try civilians in the military courts. A panel of 6 justices of the Supreme Court, with a separate judgment of Judge Faith Monda, who was since retired from service, unanimously stated that the General Court-Martial and other lower military courts were established to specifically enforce discipline among serving members of the Uganda People's Defence Forces.
The General Court-Martial of Uganda was established under Section 195 of the UPDF Act. It is composed of 7 members, all of whom are appointed by the High Command for a period of 1 year, subject to reappointment by the same appointing authority. Its membership is solely comprised of military persons, with no provision whatsoever for their professional qualifications, neither are such qualifications provided for its reserve members. Therefore, although at any one time the actual members of the General Court-Martial could very well possess the requisite qualifications, its de jure composition is purely restricted to qualification on the basis of military service.
The General Court-Martial would only be competent to adjudicate over criminal matters of not only civilians but also military persons if it were a court of law with the requisite structures to conduct a fair hearing as envisaged under Article 28 of the Constitution.
So the question is, does the General Court-Martial guarantee these fundamental freedoms? The answer as far as civilians are concerned has been found to be largely in the negative.
Apart from the Court-Martial Appeal Court, the others who sit and carry out judicial function, there's no requirement for them to study law, to be lawyers. These people do not have the training to be judice officers. And they try treason, they try all sorts of things.
The judgment comes after the Attorney General appealed the 2021 decision by the Constitutional Court that stated that military courts had no power to try civilians. The Attorney General also asked the Supreme Court to stay that decision, a request that was granted. The Constitutional Court's decision arose from former Nakawa East Member of Parliament Michael Kabaziguruka's case, where he challenged the legality of the General Court-Martial to try civilians. The former legislator and his other co-accused persons at the time were being tried in the General Court-Martial on accusations of attempting to overthrow the government by force of arms, a matter he denied. Before today, the Supreme Court had been under fire for taking too long to rule on the matter. Now, going forward,
all charges or ongoing criminal trials or pending trials before the courts-martial involving civilians must immediately cease and be transferred. Order, I'm going to chase you out. This judgment shall have no retrospective effect on any conviction made and sentences imposed prior to the date of this judgment, save where the conviction and sentence is being challenged in a court of law. All pending trials or partly heard criminal cases that fall under the civil law court's jurisdiction, which are against members of the UPDF who are subject to service law, must be transferred to the civil courts with competent jurisdiction. All pending trials or partly heard criminal cases that fall under the civil law court's jurisdiction, which are against members of the UPDF who are subject to service law, must be transferred to the civil courts with competent jurisdiction.
The Supreme Court has now quashed the appeal made by the Attorney General. This judgment comes at a time several civilians are facing criminal charges in the military courts. Former presidential candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye and his aide Haji Obed Lutale are the latest civilians to face the wrath of the General Court-Martial. They are facing charges related to national security, illegal possession of ammunition and firearms, and treachery. They were expected to return to the court-martial on Monday, 3rd February 2024 for further mention of their case. The judgment delivered by the Supreme Court today highlights the milestone the country has taken in as far as the independence of judiciary is concerned. However, it remains to be seen how quick the General Court-Martial will act as per the orders of the Supreme Court, because as far as the judgment is concerned, all cases involving civilians that are pending or ongoing at the General Court-Martial and other military courts must immediately stop and files of suspects be transferred to civil courts. Daniel Kibet, NTV.